Hey y'all, this is Romaine Brown Palmer, your virtual biz bestie, and I am hopping on really quickly to address something that one of my coaching clients just brought up, which is she was experiencing challenges with someone who's really bad at managing their calendar, who's asked them to take over her calendar, and she just wanted to get some guidance on how to set up parameters so that they are both happy with the system that they create. And so I just want to share with you what I went over with her, in case you also have clients who struggle with managing their time, struggle with managing their calendar. Again, this is only as good, the systems are only as good as the people that are using them and then choosing to implement them. But these are surefire tips that I've used in the past with clients to make sure that as much as possible, you're doing your best to support them in getting better with managing their time and managing their calendar. All right, so the first thing that you want to do when you are working with a client and you're experiencing that challenge is to sit down and just have a quick 10, 15, 20-minute conversation around what are the parameters, what do they want their weeks to look like, right? Because the system will not work if they are not bought in, if they don't buy into the process. So you're going to create a process around what are the days that they want to actually take in-person meetings, what are the days that they want to take business development meetings, what are the days that they want blocked off for project work or just to focus, and what are the buffers that they want in between their meetings. And when I say buffers, I mean, if you have a call, do you want 15 to 20 minutes before and after to ensure that no one can book calls back to back? Or in-person meetings, do you want to block for travel an hour before and an hour after to ensure that one, you have time so you don't feel rushed with whoever you're meeting, and two, obviously no one's booking a call so that you're not having to try and take a call while you're driving. Now, everyone is different, and some people feel very confident in taking back-to-back calls, so you just want to have that conversation to ensure that you have that documented. The next thing you also want to find out is when they want to end their day. When do they want to block off the end of day so that they don't have any calls, no meetings, so that they can wrap up peacefully and keep that work-life integration. So you want to find out that as well. The next thing you want to do is come up with some sort of color coding scheme, right? So that people know what at a glance, if they're looking at their calendar. So like, for instance, you're looking at the Google Calendar right now, someone from a quick glance can tell that orange means calls, red are time blocks, and green are in-person meetings. So you want to come up with some sort of system so that your client can at a glance know what their day looks like. The other thing that I like to do is whenever it's an in-person meeting, I actually like to put in-person and what kind of meeting it is. So if we're going to go into this one that I've created, and so I'll literally put in-person coaching session with the two people that are in the meeting. And then I'll make sure that I add my guests, I add the venue. I also make sure that if it's like a restaurant, I list who the reservation is made under. I also make sure that I add the coach and the client's telephone number. And a quick tip, if you're adding telephone numbers in Google, not sure how this works in Outlook, but in Google, if you do this code of tell, semicolon, oh, sorry, yes, semicolon or colon, whichever, tell, colon, the phone number all together, no spaces in between, it allows the person to just click and call directly. So if they're driving and they realize they're running late, they can click quickly and call the person without having to transcribe the number. What's also important is if there's an in-person meeting or a call, as the person who's managing the calendar, you want to make sure that you're in charge of whoever is trying to make amendments to the calendar invitation. So I always turn off the guest permissions, and I also turn off the guest permissions if there are multiple people that are invited to the meeting, but they don't necessarily have a direct connection to each other, so that you can't see the guest invitation list and they can't invite other people. If it's something where it's like a common group of of colleagues who have been working together for a while, you can, check these off so everyone can see who is doing what and who's coming where. But for the most part, when you're working with clients, you want to make sure that these are unchecked. The other thing that I like to make sure that is here is if there's a reservation, like I said, who the reservation name is under, but also the reservation number. You want to think about the calendar as the way that that person, it's kind of like their one-stop shop of everything that they have to talk about or do with this meeting. So if there was an agenda that was discussed, I would drop that in here. If there were any attachments, I'd go ahead and attach that here, so that everybody's on the same page. The next thing you also want to make sure is that this is set as busy so that no one accidentally can book a call if it's connected to, say, a Calendly or an Acuity. You want to make sure that it says busy. The next thing you want to make sure is that you add a notification. So whether that's an hour and ahead, um, or 15 minutes ahead, so that people know that they have a meeting coming up. If it's an in-person meeting, I tend to like to say, it's an hour ahead, you need to get out the house, you need to get in your car, or depending on however far it is from where they are, you want to make sure that you add that notification so they get that little alert on their phone. The next thing I like to do for in-person meetings is block before and after for travel. Now, depending on your client, this could just be for you, or it could be also for the client, right? And if you have direct access to your client's calendar, you can just add that on without them needing to accept it. But I do like to put this block again so that no one accidentally books for that time. It's set for busy, but I don't add any notifications so that it doesn't alert them. This is just a buffer on their calendar. Next, with calls, I literally put the type of call. So if this is just a regular call between two people, I'll make sure that I put that there. If there's a Zoom link, I will put the Zoom link here and then put all the other ways that you can participate in the call here. If it's just phone number, I will specifically say James Electric is calling Coach Awesome, or Coach Awesome is calling James Electric, and put both their numbers like I did in the other calendar invitation. The next thing I also want to do is if it's a discovery call, you make sure that you put that, it's a discovery call so that the person knows at a glance that this is an important call to make sure that, they're mentally prepared and they have everything that they need. So for instance, if this was a discovery call between Jim Dean and a coach, and say Jim has completed his pre-call questionnaire, I would include that here with his telephone number, with the coach's telephone number, and the Zoom link, or whatever conference calling system you're using, just in case it doesn't work out. If there's a glitch with the conference calling system, they have each other's phone numbers to connect. Other ways that I use to support clients who struggle with managing their time is physically putting deadline-based time blocks on their calendar. So for instance, if this person had to fill out a speaker application, I would literally put, okay, the deadline is February 2nd, and so I'm literally putting a time block reminder for you to fill out the application here on the 10th, and I'm giving you an approximation of how much time that's going to need. And I would also include a link to the application and any instructions that came out with it. This is for people who are just constantly running at the end. Now, you definitely want to put that as busy. You want to add a notification if it's the type of person who will forget or will not see the notification on their calendar. But in your weekly call with your clients or bi-weekly call with your clients, you definitely want to review their calendar and make sure that they know why you're putting those time blocks there. And so mentally for them, it gives them the space to do whatever they need to do on the other days of the week because they know they have time specifically blocked for it on Friday, the 24th. And also you'll see that I added a block for the end of the day, and I have that set to recurring for every week. And so it no longer have to worry that anyone's going to book any calls during the end of the day. And so if that happens, it's because the client has specifically requested that. The other thing that I like to check in with my client when building parameters is finding out how far in advance you can book calls for them. So if they're the type of person where they're like, I don't care if you book calls same week, but most people like to know what their week looks like by Monday. So typically Friday is the cutoff to book anything on the next week's calendar. So confirm that with your client, and make sure that you create parameters so that you know, okay, if anybody's trying to book a call for the week of the 27th, that deadline needs to happen, and your follow-ups and everything and confirmations need to happen on the 24th. What's also important for calendar and management is the day before, your meetings, going ahead and confirming with the people that your client has a meeting with, because no one likes to waste their time, that the time and date and everything works, right? You don't want people popping up on the day off and being like, oh, he's on his way to this in-person meeting and that person has canceled. So always check in the day before. Last but not least is putting the important things on their calendar that will make them a rock star in their life. So one of the things that I like to do is making sure that the important people in their life, their birthdays, their anniversaries are on the calendar and accounted for. So, and then this is something obviously you would set for annual, because if it's like, say, Jane is his wife or her wife, you want to make sure that it's set annually for that date, right? And then you set a notification for days before so that if they need to go and buy a card or buy flowers, whatever it is, you can do that here as well. And if they've ever shared with you any sort of notes like Jane loves peonies, or Jane loves purple flowers, or Jane loves, spa, you want to make sure that you add that there so that these are value added tips that will help you, be that rock star supporter for your clients. The other thing I like to add on clients is whenever, if you're working with a speaker or with a coach and they are pitching to either be speaking or somewhere, you want to make sure you add those blocks to the calendar and just say, that it's in draft or it's pending, that you're in conversation with that booking, and then transfer the booking from a draft to final once it's been confirmed. This way, if someone is saying to them, hey, are you available on the 24th? They can look in the calendar and just say, actually, it looks like I have a potential booking that we're working on, but let me, we can still have the conversation. So all of those things will really make you shine, and also help your client who has time management issues or challenges, as we can say, to really get over that hump, especially for 2020, where we're all so busy with our new beautiful goals. So hope that was helpful to you. Let me know if there are any other challenges, simple tips that I can answer for you. You can drop them below if you're watching them on YouTube or on Instagram. Just drop in the comments below or send me a private message, and I will happily do a quick tip video on that. All right, until next time.